Right, everyone. Hello. Sunday evening. Just jumping on because Liverpool have pulled the plug on Andy Robertson's move to Tottenham. So, what on earth has the last week of the transfer window got in store for Tottenham Hotspur? I'm going to sort of speak about that in this video because everything feels like a bit of a mess at the moment. I've just got home from paddle. I've just seen that news. It was nice to actually go out and be able to enjoy myself this weekend after what was such a miserable day yesterday. Thank you to everyone who watched my match reaction video. That's still up for you to go and enjoy. And at least we could all smile today when Matos Kenya put that ball past David Raya. I think I cracked a smile for the first time this weekend. And if you did as well, make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know what you think the January transfer window has got in store for Tottenham this week. I'm just Googling quickly. When does the January transfer window close? So it's the 2nd of Feb. So Spurs have got, what's the date today? Sunday the 25th of Jan. And then when's the 2nd of Feb? The 2nd of Feb is next Monday. So Spurs have got up until next Monday. So basically a week to sort their out. Liverpool have pulled the plug on Andy Robertson's move to Spurs. Now, as you guys would have seen in the video that I made the other day, I weighed up the pros and cons. Wasn't massively against it at all, but I think it's once again reflective of Spurs' poor squad planning and scattergun approach. Even though I think he would have brought good intangibles to the squad, I still think he had a fair bit to offer on the pitch as well. But I still can't really get my head around Tottenham's transfer strategy because at the start of the window, Alistair Gold and a lot of other reputable journalists, Sky Sports, David Ornstein, with the links to Semenyo, were all coming out and saying Spurs want to bolster that squad further. We want to bring in an attacking player. Spurs are looking to sign another left forward in January, particularly one could play on the left. And then Alistair Gold's kind of roundup. This was on the 29th of December, I think. Left wing is a priority next month, as well as potentially adding a midfielder and a centre-back. We've done that with Gallagher, but we've not brought in a centre-back, even though I don't think it was necessarily needs must anyway, even though I suppose maybe if Dragusin was going to go, they would have looked to have replaced him potentially. A natural left-back will be sought out even now in the summer. We've obviously done that with Sousa, and obviously did that with Robertson as well. If they go and move for another left-back, I honestly wouldn't waste time on it. Don't waste time on it. Spurs have got plenty of other positions that need prioritising and upgrading before we move on to another left-back target. If Spurs are going to move for a striker, the club are one of many sides across Europe eyeing up Samu. Players will be allowed to depart for the right players, etc., etc., etc. Midfield is expected to be a key upgrade area in January if the right candidates can be secured. Now, they will feel like they've done that in Conor Gallagher. I still feel like Spurs are in desperate need of a progressive passer. I think I've said that to I'm blue in the face. I'm not the only Spurs fan that said that because every single person in our fan base can see that right now. I appreciate that the guy that might move the needle in that position might not be there in January right now for us, but I think there are so many options out there that could actually come in and benefit us now. Maybe someone like a Hayden Hackney, potentially. And also, I think the biggest thing I have with this, right, and I just plucked Hayden Hackney off the top of my head. I think he's a good championship player. I do think probably would need more proven quality than that in the Premier League to come and help us now. But just quality technical footballers is something Spurs needs to prioritise in the last couple of weeks of the window, because I think what we saw on Saturday, and I touched upon this in my match reaction, right? Obviously, Spurs went to move to sign Andy Robertson because of the intangibles that he could bring. It's part of the reason we signed Conor Gallagher as well, because of his leadership skills, all those kind of things, right? I think that makes sense when you look at Spurs' dire situation that we're in right now, obviously. But we all watched that game on Saturday. Under this manager, these players seem to be incapable of passing the ball 5 yards between each other. And that's on the manager, I think, for the risk-free environment that he's kind of created at Tottenham, kind of forcing players to overthink the most basic things. I don't really see any patterns of play that the players can kind of fall naturally into to play kind of on instinct, which I think is holding them back. Also, I think the technical level of the squad isn't good enough. I do believe that. But instead of looking at the leaders that we've already got in the squad, Romero, Van der Ven, Palhinha, even bringing in Gallagher as well, a few of the other guys there too that I think can step up in dark moments. I think Danso is probably one of those, what we've seen so far. Don't get me started on Vicario and Porro, faux leaders in my opinion. I think there was almost enough already there that meant that you didn't necessarily need to go and sign another one. Spurs need technical quality to help us get out of this mess. Romero stepping up in the way that he did to get us back into that game on Saturday once again shows that I think there is fight and there is character in this team. We need to change the manager, and I'm going to speak about that in a video tomorrow. There's plenty of videos coming over the next couple of days. I've got 2 videos a day coming for the next 2 days. Obviously, if there is a strong transfer rumour, then I'll speak about that. But I want to do 2 videos tomorrow. I want to speak about Michael Carrick and his impact at Manchester United and why Spurs, I think, should change the manager. I also want to talk about how I want to do almost a bit of a squad audit, because I've seen a lot of stuff in terms of narrative around particularly on Match of the Day, Alan Shearer saying that it's these players, it's not necessarily the manager. Thomas Frank is basically escaping any criticism. So I basically want to do a bit of a squad audit, try and be as objective as I can to go through this Tottenham squad and analyse whether it should be performing better or whether it is the manager holding us back. So I've got that. Also, I'll do a Frankfurt preview, and I want to talk about the media narrative kind of on a broader scale as well, but the comparable media narrative between when Ange Postecoglou was our manager and Thomas Frank. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. But yeah, I've seen a lot of chat about the squad. This squad is more than good enough to be not in a relegation battle. I genuinely believe that. And I know similar, like this squad was also in a poor state in the Premier League last season. I think there was obviously other mitigating circumstances. I think our injury crisis was worse under Postecoglou. I think with the key players that, yes, obviously he's got Maddison and Kulusevski missing, but he's had Xavi Simons and Mohamed Kudus kind of put for him, which is a transfer window I think a lot of Spurs managers in the past would have killed for, to be honest. I know Kudus is obviously injured at the moment, but I think Odobert, I thought that was his best game in a Spurs shirt, and I think he is good enough depth on the right to be able to kind of to perform, really. I think you saw that. You saw that on Saturday. But there are still big gaping holes in this squad that absolutely need to be addressed in the last week of this transfer window. Like I said, left wing was the priority position that we were told that we wanted. And this, by the way, this carried on the 29th of December from Alistair Gold. And this was after it was basically confirmed that Semenyo, A, wasn't coming to Tottenham, and B, was probably going to go to Man City. I think we found out that we basically pulled out of the race for Semenyo. I think it was before Christmas. I'm pretty sure it was before Christmas. And I know we were supposedly trying to go really strong for him and all those kind of stuff. And I think Semenyo obviously would have moved the needle and instantly gone and started for us on that left-hand side and would have brought quality to help us get out of this mess. And the options are obviously limited. I just feel like what we see over the course of the next week is we'll get linked to a couple of bigger names, like an Iliman and Jai or someone like that. And Spurs will say they're going to go hard. That'll be the talk in the media. But there's no way Everton are going to sell him in the last week of the window. Not a chance. And the thing that annoys me, right, is when you look at the approach for Andy Robertson, Spurs have got money to spend. We know that for a fact. And the rumours were, I think if I search, I'm pretty sure Andy Robertson wages. Where are we? I'm pretty sure, yeah. It's believed that Andy Robertson earns in the region of 160 grand a week at Liverpool, and there is acknowledgement that he would remain a big earner at Tottenham. And I don't think he would have taken a wage cut. I'm not sure he would have, to be honest. So those are the sort of wages that you can offer to a player that will come in and help move the needle for you right now. That, regardless of the situation that you're in, would be an attractive proposition for certain players out there. And yes, obviously the situation that we find ourselves in is not ideal. But again, if Spurs had been more proactive rather than reactive, which is kind of sums up our season. It sums up Thomas Frank's managerial approach, reactive, not proactive. I spoke about that yesterday in terms of the substitutions and those kind of things. He's so reactive to the game state, so reactive to what other teams do rather than proactive and say, this is how we're going to go out and do things. We're reactive, not proactive in the transfer market because we were gaslit into believing that we were going to go and get a left winger. That was a priority position that we were going to spend money on, and we haven't done it. It's the 25th of January today, and there's been no credible links outside of Antoine Semenyo before Christmas. Nothing. Magnus Akliush's name popped up a little bit, probably because of the injury to Kudus. I've got no idea what Spurs are going to do in the last week of this window. I really, really don't. But as I say, if you've got those sort of wages being able to be offered to Andy Robertson, then why can't Spurs, a serious club who was in the mire like we are at the moment, would, regardless of that, would be looking at players and going, look, we can give you the money. You're going to come in. You're going to be an important part of this project. Left wing is arguably a position that we need to upgrade as a starter anyway. So you've got that week in, week out starter position to be able to offer to them. And like I said, I will colour this with the context of that it's a really, obviously, not the most attractive proposition for players to step into. But if you spend the money and offer them the wages, they will come. Look at Conor Gallagher. That's the reason we were able to get him over Aston Villa. And the situation at Tottenham, yes, it's got worse since he came in, but he would have known that Spurs would have been up against it potentially in a relegation battle. Yes, the situation has worsened, but it does show you that Spurs can go out and sign players, can offer the wages. Why aren't we doing it for a player that was supposedly the main position that we wanted to target when we are now at the point where we are starting Jed Spence at left wing in 2 consecutive games in the Premier League and the Champions League. Forget that. Odegaard wasn't left wing. We know it was Spence. Odegaard played on the right. Fuck my doing me over here. But everyone, you know what I mean. Everyone who watched the game. I just, while you're not trusting Matisse Tell to play as well, by the way. Look, if that left wing target that isn't going to move the needle isn't out there, then that's one thing. But then actually use a left winger that is in your squad that has been one of your brightest attackers in recent weeks. And I'd imagine when Kudus returns from injury, Odegaard will move back over there on that left-hand side. I think Odegaard is a starter in this Tottenham team now. I do genuinely believe that. But Kudus isn't going to return from injury until April. And we've got our biggest run of the season coming up here. And we need quality. We need quality. We need it desperately. We absolutely need it. Let me know in the comments. Let's have a look at some potential left wing targets now. Left wingers that Spurs could go and try and I've got to just quickly turn my VPN off to get onto the transfer market. Apologies for that. Right. Left wing, most valuable players. So obviously, let's forget about this upper echelon, right? Yield is absolutely no chance. Barcola, I very much doubt it. Yan Diamonde was someone that they apparently sniffed around. I still kind of had doubts about that. I mean, Kevin Schade just doesn't really move me. So again, like as I'm saying it, maybe the options aren't really necessarily there. But who was their backup plan to Semenyo then? So even though I can kind of sit here and say that there might not be the guys out there that they feel that would move the needle, who on earth was their backup plan? Because like I said, at this point, when Alistair Gold said this, Semenyo had already basically said that he wasn't coming to Tottenham and it looked like he was going to sign for Man City or Liverpool. What about right wingers that can kind of play on the left-hand side? There's got to be some guys out there. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not looking that promising. Iliman and Jai, like I said, is the one. I think I do. If they can go big on him for the last week, I don't. Honestly, don't know. I'm really. This worries me. Like I said, the names might not be there for me either, but it just shows you there's not really a plan. What I've just kind of showed you there has almost exposed this even more. Who was that backup to Antoine Semenyo? Because, like I said, at this point, there was no chance that he was coming to Tottenham. Not in a million years. So what do we do now then? What do we do now? This is about bringing in quality that is going to help improve this team. We don't necessarily need more leaders. Because in the first couple of games, Conor Gallagher hasn't exactly brought us that much. And I'm not writing him off necessarily. Andy Robertson definitely would have brought something to this dressing room and brought something to this team and this group and this squad. I'm not that bothered about missing out on him. I don't know why Liverpool were even open to losing him in the first place. But we have got leaders. We've got strong characters in there. We need some quality. We really need some quality desperately in the last couple of days of this window to help this team out and help this situation out. We are in the mire. We're in a mess. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do we do? What does the last week of Spurs' transfer window look like? Raheem Sterling on loan? I'm really nervous about what is to come. Honestly, I've got no idea what they're going to do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video tomorrow.